arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as the young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm high like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. It gets so lit, I guess so, bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday. That means you get to hang out with us, little sports nonsense and whiskey. Welcome, fellas. How you doing, Pinky? Robert, welcome again, sir. Always nice to have you back.
Always glad to be here.
Fellas, Pinky, what's going on, my guy? Tuesday, we got some college football. We got some NFL football, a little NBA, a little touch point there. Other than that, what do you got for your nonsense, my guy? What was your weekend? What's going on?
Hold on one sec, my man. Oh, man, I don't know if my weekend was I don't know, man. My weekend was, I think my things,
Pinky, you are choppy
slowing down because of my virtual background. I'm gonna jump out real quick.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
Robert, you give it a shot.
So I just had a pretty chill weekend, honestly. I watched some of the college football. Was extremely disappointed with some of the outcomes, but hey, you know,
we'll discuss.
It is what it is. Sunday just kind of kicked back, hung out. Unfortunately, watched the Broncos lose it there, unfortunately, but hey, it happens. But interesting things to come for the next few weeks. The college football playoffs have my attention, especially with the drama behind the scenes there. So, you know, it's interesting.
I agree. Pinky, can you speak now without coming in and out?
What's up, guys?
Are you with? What's up?
Yeah, I think so. The virtual background, I was trying it out, and it just slows down the whole stream. So had to remove it. So I'm in my home office. Welcome to Pinky's bedroom, but we're here. Am I still? Is it still not working?
No, you're doing good. You're doing good. I just wasn't prepared for you to invite us into your inner sanctum.
Right.
This is my inner sanctum, or where the magic happens, is what they say.
Also wasn't prepared for that.
So
thank God your wife is an amazing woman, because there are some times when you open your mouth, I'm like,
yes. Hey, I was forced to make dinner tonight. I've already had a couple drinks. So who knows where this is going to go? Who knows?
Love it. This is going to be good. This is going to be good stuff.
Yeah, my dinner was supposed to be ready and it failed, so it's still cooking.
Oh.
Yep.
You know,
I had it all right.
Underestimated.
Go that
The
way.
wife was doing. The wife went to jujitsu. I made dinner. It was all ready when she got home, and so I am good to go. Trying to think. Nothing happened over the weekend. Football, college football, NFL football. Relaxing. I'm ready for this weekend. We've got our company holiday party, and then I fly to San Antonio Monday for work. So, pretty excited. A little time, get out of the house, get out of the town.
They still forcing you at the
And,
Cheyenne Mountain.
gonna go
into
see
those
Wemby.
dingy little rooms.
What do you? I mean, it's at the Cheyenne Mountain. We like it there. We get a room, and we have a blast because we basically, we get a couple drinks, and then I go back to the room and get drinks from my room, and just come back and forth, and it's awesome, man. We have a great time. Great time.
Good for you. Good for you. There's too many uppers there for me to ever have a good time.
I've never been to one, so we're about to find out.
I don't know what that means.
Management. I'm not going to enjoy myself the way I would like to actually enjoy myself with all of them around.
It's
gonna
mandatory
happen.
fun.
I
It's
enjoy
mandatory
myself.
fun, Caleb.
Robert can tell you. Caleb can tell you I enjoy myself when they are around, so it's really not a big difference. I do. I have a good time. So
I'm looking forward
I
to
make work
being a part of it.
enjoyable for others.
True.
Fair. All right then.
So
Enjoy yourself, my guy.
that's just the Pinky brand. That's my brand at work. Is I'm the fun guy, the funny fat guy.
You have a solid brand, my guy. I'm not gonna down your brand by any means. You got your brand, and it's a good brand. You're a good dude. Just not a fan of the place, I think. So I'll leave it at that. Robert, side note, if you don't have plans next week, you should come join me again because Pinky will be gone. So
I
keep
will
that in
be
mind.
available. I will be here.
Well, then people get to listen to you and me next week without Pinky.
Looking forward to it. It'll be a good time.
Wow.
Skyrocketing numbers coming. Skyrocketing numbers.
Here we go.
All right,
you guys.
business out of the way.
Last time it was a Nebraska Red evening. Last time I missed the podcast.
It
Nothing
was not.
more.
It was
too.
not Nebraska
You both
at
wore
all.
Nebraska shit. Yes, you did. Both of you did.
Well, we did
And it
do
was
that.
the-
You forced our hand, sir. Don't force the hand, and it won't happen. You call a bluff, and I'm gonna do something about it. I mean, come on now. You know me better than that.
That was a tough one to listen to. I'll be honest. It was tough. But I
And then
I got through
you
it.
forced
I
the
got through
guest upon me. You told me I wasn't good enough to do it by myself, and then
Oh,
Cam came in
man.
and had to talk even more smack. And
Well, nobody wants
you
to
brought it
listen
all
to-
upon yourself.
There's got to be checks and balances for you, my friend. That's just how it works. There's got to be checks and balances.
I check and balance myself. We'll be fine.
Oh man, this is gonna be a good one. Pinky's already.
Look, let's be honest here. When you're not on the show, and when I'm not on the show, the dialogue is very different as far as the way you talk about your co-host. So I'm just saying, like, don't come at me like that, because we could change things if you need me to.
No, we're gonna keep it civilized.
All right, fair. So
All right.
we got some sports.
Topic
Robert,
one,
I
let's
gotta
go.
let you know. Hang on. I gotta let Robert know. I did finally finish Andor, so I'm caught up on everything except for Bad Batch, and I think there was something else. But all the main
All the good
storyline kind of stuff, all caught up on.
All right.
Dude, I thought Rogue One was something special and going in a good direction. I thought the way some of the Mandalorian and some of the way Boba Fett was done was insane and went in a new direction and really opened up the universe.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anything that can compare to Andor. The storyline, the
Was-
writing, and
yeah.
the way it opens up the entire universe and ties all those backstories together and starts bringing them into the forefront. Oh my God.
And there's a season 2 coming, so
not till 2025. I just read,
but that's fine. I'm good with it. I'm
okay as long as they're doing things the right way, which I think they've learned their lesson and they're going to. So, for those that haven't seen Andor, I'm not going to give any spoilers or talk about it too heavily right now. I'll give you a week. You got a week to catch up because next Tuesday, when Robert joins me again, we will have to have some conversation.
I'm ready.
For those that don't know or don't listen or don't pay attention, I have always said I'm a closet nerd jock. And I love all Star Wars comics, all of Magic, Dungeons and Dragons. Wow, I played it. I did it. I love it. So just because I'm all about sports doesn't mean I don't have, those other interests as well. So it's hard to not discuss when you have somebody of Robert's IQ in the field and be able to bounce some ideas back and forth, some thought processes and things of that nature. So telling you now, if you want to listen to some Star Wars, definitely tune in next week. If you want no Star Wars, tune in for the sports and then you can jump off.
There you go.
Spare warnings, giving them out early today. That's where we're
I like that. Setting expectations.
Cody,
that's a good job, Caleb.
Cody, you're missing out, my guy. You are fully missing out. I'm going to tell you right now, if you've seen all the movies, the first thing you need to go watch is Clone Wars. Done. Clone Wars. First thing you need to watch. From there, I'll let you decide how you want to go about it. But then you really should probably go to Rebels. And then you really probably should check out Ahsoka, Andor. Not going to necessarily be all within timeline exactly. But that is probably the way I would go about it. Robert, would you have a different suggestion?
I would say if you're wanting something with basic movies just to find that spark again, watch The Mandalorian and then go back. If you really want something that's live action before you get into the cartoons, I would start there. I say cartoons because yes, it's animated, but it is far from a kid's show once you really peel back the layer and get into it. So it's excellent.
Clone Wars and Rebels are some of the best writing and storytelling in all of Star Wars universe. So don't let the made for Disney stuff fool you.
Exactly.
But I Robert's on it. If you're not quite ready for the animation, go ahead and check out The Mandalorian and then move on from there. Tim. Pinky's got you covered. Who else?
Got my Montana jersey.
He's got somebody else sitting out there for you. I'm telling you now.
I got my Montana jersey. I'm ready to see these guys in the Super Bowl. I'm ready. I will wear that to the Super Bowl if they make it. Make it.
Well, who is the other team in there? Are you just going to support the Niners no matter who they're against? Because you're throwing out some things here. We got to be clear. Yeah. I mean, what happens if the Broncos show up somehow?
No.
He goes. Go.
I mean, that's different. I'm always,
okay.
I'm always repping Broncos. So,
he is. I want to make sure we're on the same page because you don't want to say something and then all of a sudden have to backtrack on it. So let's set some parameters early. Let's make sure
we all know if the Broncos, if something weird in the universe happened and asteroids collided and somehow people played their worst games against the Broncos and we went to the Super Bowl, I definitely root for the Broncos, of course. I'm not expecting that to happen. So,
okay.
I'm expecting the Chiefs to make it because there's just not a lot of competition in the AFC this year. And Eagles or Niners are going to make the Super Bowl. That's just what's going to happen.
Well, save that because we're gonna really dive into that in a second here with the NFL. But let's start college. For those that have been living under a rock for the last 2 or 3 days, it was announced Sunday morning at 10 a.m. that the College Football Playoff Committee had selected their 4 final teams. Given the nature that the way the weekend went, Washington beating Oregon kind of handily. Was not the game I expected to see from Oregon. You've got Michigan smoking Iowa. Everybody knew that was coming.
Yep.
You've got Florida State going with their third-string QB by the second quarter, a true freshman, beating Louisville in an ugly brawl-out game. As far as like high scoring and stuff goes, not a game you would want to watch. But as far as like old school grinded out football and teams are just doing everything they can to move those chess pieces around to win, it was actually pretty entertaining. Don't have a rooting interest for any team, so either team, so I could care less. I was pulling for Louisville to create even more chaos, but little did I know by Florida State winning, I got the best chaos I possibly could have. So Florida State wins. You have Texas smoking Oklahoma State and definitively putting their name in the mix. And then we end with good old Georgia, Alabama. SEC powerhouses going to battle. Alabama smoked Georgia. Now, the score doesn't say they smoked them, but if you watch the game, Bama controlled that game pretty much from start to finish. The score was closer than you might feel like that.
I'd agree with that.
Bama controlled that game. At no point did I feel like Georgia was going to win that game after about the first maybe 10 minutes of the game. So Bama wins. So now the number one team in the nation that has gone undefeated for almost 3 years in a row falls. Where do they fall to? Well, they fall to number 6. They go from 1 to 6. Never happened before. Okay, I like that. Some history being made, shaking things up a little bit. Michigan revealed as number 1 with Georgia's loss. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people called them the most complete team in the country all season. Okay, beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, looking good, controlling that game for the most part. Okay, number 1. Number 2, Washington, undefeated as well. Dominant performance against Oregon a second time. Honestly, did not see that coming. I really thought Oregon was looking like the better team going into that weekend. Washington felt like they had been playing flat. They came out and smoked Oregon. Smoked them. Now, I can't tell right now. I'm on the fence. Is Washington actually a really good football team that just had some down weeks, which happens to every team in college and pros? You go through a little slump. As long as you're hot at the right time, you're good. Or are they just a terrible matchup for Oregon? I'm struggling to decide where Washington is. Really good team that struggled a couple weeks, slump, or are they just a terrible matchup for Oregon and they're not as competitive on the national stage as we're hoping? I'm hoping for the former. I'm hoping Washington is actually a really good team. They've got insane skill positions. Michael Penix is a Heisman finalist. So they've got the pieces, solid defense. Washington, number 2. I hope they show up and compete. Texas comes in at number 3. No surprise. They win the Big 12 handily. Their only loss is to Oklahoma, which is their rival. Red River rivalry. You lose to your rival, that's your only loss. Doesn't matter how good or bad that team was that year. Those are always acceptable losses in the grand scheme of things. Texas did beat Alabama week 2, I think it was, in Tuscaloosa by 10 points.
Yeah, week 2.
Yeah, so Texas comes up to number 3. Makes perfect sense. And in at number 4, go ahead and slide in Florida State, undefeated ACC champ. Yes, they're missing their starting, Heisman finalist quarterback. But, undefeated ACC champ. ACC was 6-4 against the SEC this year. ACC wasn't as bad as everybody thought it was. SEC wasn't as good as everybody thought it was. As a whole. All right, Florida State, you're in, and we're rolling. But that didn't happen.
Nope.
The committee chose Alabama. Now, to be clear, I understand why Alabama was picked. I get the reasoning behind it. To be clear, I could give a shit less if Florida State or Alabama was in the college football playoffs. I have no rooting interest for either team. And actually, as a Nebraska fan, perfectly honest, I dislike Florida State more than I dislike Alabama. But if we're being honest about the situation, and we're really looking at the whole criteria for what it takes for these teams to be in the college football playoffs in the Final Four, Florida State getting left out, they got screwed. Screwed bad. They have the number 3 Number 3
Not
in
at
the
all.
country. Number 3 in the country. Strength of record. Strength of schedule. Number 3 in the country. They went undefeated. They were a league champion. As I said, the ACC had a winning record this year against the SEC. And for those of you that might not be historians and might not remember this, there is a precedent already set for a football team to go into the college football playoffs not having their starting quarterback and being allowed to compete against those other teams, not thinking, oh, they're probably going to lose and get smoked because their starting quarterback is there. No, the committee was thinking, undefeated, really good team, we should give you a chance. And that would be Ohio State with Cardell Jones. And guess what they did when they got in the college football playoffs? They won the whole damn thing. So nothing, and I am fully capable of doing all my research to know this. There is nothing that anyone can say to me at this point that says this was the right decision. Period.
It absolutely was. Period. They made
Why?
the right decision. Because they picked 4 of the best teams to play. And Florida State is not one of those 4 best teams. I would have
And they
taken
showed that on
Ohio State
Saturday.
and Georgia. If they struggled so hard against Louisville, so hard. I don't give a shit if their third string quarterback struggled hard. Nobody wanted to watch that BS. Nobody. Now that doesn't.
I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this shit argument that that's not what people want to watch.
This is my turn. This is my turn. My turn. And again, those Florida State kids, they played hard. They deserve to be in. They deserve to get their asses kicked by every team they would have played. That's absolutely a fact. But that's why it's a selection. A selection committee is meant to put together the 4 best teams. Now, thankfully, next year, this is not an issue because it's going to 12 teams.
It's just
This
14
year, there happens to be 8 teams this year that I think have a solid argument of getting in. Florida State being one of them, Georgia being one of them, Ohio State being one of them, and I still think Oregon kind of has an argument. Now, again, they lost to the same team twice. But they're still a really damn good football team, and they really were all season. So somebody had to get knocked out. And unfortunately, again, this isn't a conversation if Florida State's Heisman hopeful quarterback is still playing. They're in, but he's not. And nobody wants to watch that BS. And unfortunately for Florida State, TCU getting completely demolished in the championship game left that selection committee with like, ooh, we don't want to watch that happen again. And that's exactly what would happen if Florida State got in. That's why they're not. I'm not saying it's right, but it is the facts.
Right, but everything you just said, unfortunately, isn't the 4 best teams were picked. What you just said and gave an argument for was the 4 most teams that we want to watch were picked.
That's the teams that are the best. Nobody wants to watch Florida State. And nobody wants to watch them get rolled.
This isn't about is your quarterback healthy or not. It is a team. The team did everything asked of them that requires them to be selected.
But again, at the end of the day, this is a selection. It's not a black and white. You won the ACC. You went undefeated. You get in. That's not what this is. It's a selection committee.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that's part of the issue. So I will also say this. I'll pound the table all day long saying Florida State got screwed because of everything I just laid out. I will also pound the table and say I have no sympathy for Florida State whatsoever because their commissioner is one of the commissioners who voted against starting the 12-team playoff this year. So had he not been a dumbass and had he gone ahead and allowed the playoffs to happen this year, his team would be in and nobody would be talking about it. So I know I'm kind of living on both sides of the fence here. But again, I'm going to say it clearly. I think Florida State did everything they had to in a team sport to qualify for that dance, and they got screwed. I also don't care or want to hear anything from any Florida State fans because the ACC commissioner said, we don't want to play off at all, but if it's going to happen, we're going to wait 2 years. I mean, we're going to wait 3 years instead of 2. And then that's what happened. So
Okay.
you screwed yourself.
I got to respond to Biggie here. Biggie, I'm sure there's tons of Florida State fans that want to see them in. That's fine. But for us football fans, which will be the general public who don't have a dog in the race, we don't want to see a team get boat raced. That's what would happen. Florida State plays any of those 4 teams that are in. If Florida State played Ohio State, when Florida State plays Georgia, they're going to get boat raced. So, I'm sorry. A casual fan whose team isn't playing that wants to watch good football does not want to watch a team get boat raced.
I agree with everything you just said, Pinky, and that is the exact reason why this is also wrong. That is the exact. This should not be about what game do we want to see. What's going to be better on TV.
Anytime you have to agree with me.
Cheers, my guy.
Anytime you have to agree with me, it's bad. It's a bad day.
It's not. You made a lot of good points, man. You did. But that is the problem. This shouldn't be about what game is going to look best on TV. This shouldn't be about, well, Alabama is going to give Michigan a better chance, a better opponent than Florida State. That's not what this should be about.
And that goes back to it's a selection committee. And that's
right,
the committee's job.
The committee got it wrong. Everything by the numbers that they have preached, that they go on for the last 10 years, they threw out the window to put Alabama in over Florida State. That's what happened, and that's why people are pissed off. Because they completely contradicted everything they've done for the last however many years. No, Georgia didn't get hosed.
I think Georgia got hosed.
I disagree.
Why? Got absolutely hosed. Georgia should be in over Texas.
No.
Georgia should be in over Texas.
Texas beat Alabama.
Absolutely.
Texas beat Alabama by double digits at home for Alabama. What do you mean?
Week 2.
So?
Alabama is a completely different team today. Alabama is a completely different team today than they were week 2.
You don't think Texas is any better?
Absolutely.
You think Texas is the same team?
I think Texas is still a good team.
Texas is better than they were week 2, bro. Pinky. Texas had Alabama beat last year in Austin if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt and go out of the game. They win that game.
Which is a fact. I agree.
Then they come back this year and beat the team again, and you're still saying Alabama's a better team than Texas?
I do.
Whew.
Right now, Alabama's a better team than Texas. And we'll find – I mean, I don't know if we'll find out because Alabama's got to play Texas may not beat Washington, so – and Alabama might not beat Michigan. Who knows? We'll see. To me, again, and this is where I think, again, this is where having 4 teams is stupid. Because I think Georgia has an argument based on they lost the last game of the season. That's it. That's the game they've lost, the only game they've lost in 3 years. Now, again, I know they're not as good a team as they were in the past. I absolutely agree with that. I agree with Ohio State having an argument. Like, they only lost 1 game to their rival, and they could have won that game. Does that make sense?
I think Ohio State has
they didn't have another.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think Ohio State is more of an argument than Georgia, personally, because Georgia,
and that's where
Georgia's regular season schedule was cupcakes all year.
And again, I agree that those kids at Florida State did everything they were supposed to do, and they're getting punished and not getting to play based on basically their quarterback not being there. And that's not fair.
Based on dollars and cents, not dollars and cents.
It's not fair, but it's just the facts. And that's, again, I'm not up in arms about it because I understand where it comes from. It just shows that it's a dumb system and that we should have moved on from 4 teams a long time ago.
Well,
only a couple times have we looked at it and been like, yeah, the top 4 teams are in. Right.
So
there's always been that like conversation.
somehow over this last decade that the CFP has been there with the committee, they've managed to not have any major issues. Somehow, some way, they went until the very last year of its existence without any major issues. So when you create a system that's flawed from the beginning with five Power Fives, P5s, there's 5 of them, and you create a system with only 4 spots, there's going to be bias and issues always. So you're absolutely right, Pinky. The system was flawed from the beginning. It was stupid. It was a joke. Everybody knew that, and they rolled with it anyways. And last year of its existence, they're paying the price. But like I said, don't have any sympathy because the ACC commissioner and a few others could have voted to have it this year, and they chose not to. So that's the end of it. I will touch on this real quick before we move along to Heisman conversation. Cody, yeah. From what I'm hearing, he wants $1 million from like their general public fund or something allocated by their House or Congress or whatever in Florida so that DeSantis can hire lawyers to fight this, is the word on the street. First of all, I'm going to say Governor DeSantis is arguably the dumbest person I've ever met in my life, or at least had the privilege of listening to. Dumbest idiot ever. Because he's trying to say the entire state of Florida is up in arms about Florida State not making the college football playoffs. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a lack of knowledge on my part. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's only one part of Florida, one town that is in agreement with this governor. And the entire rest of the state is probably thinking the opposite. Given the fact that Miami and Florida University are both there and huge rivals, I'm going to guess that other parts of the state don't feel the same way. So
we all know where I hang my loyalty. So.
Right. Dumbass first for the governor. Just the fact that it's even being talked about is just the dumbest thing ever. Secondly, I think we can all agree to the fact that government
taxpayer money
out of sports.
Yeah, should we use taxpayer money to fight something that's literally like, again, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, dude, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. We're not doing that tonight because I don't have the energy to waste on that. But look, the whole Congress hearings on the steroid era in baseball and some of these other things that have happened are a waste of government assets. A giant waste. And that's all DeSantis is doing right now. He's trying to plead to his constituents. And the dude's so dumb, he doesn't understand that the majority of his constituents are actually happy about this situation. Idiot. So, yeah, go ahead and do it. Good luck with that. You're going to get nowhere. So I think cheers to politicians staying out of sports. No business in government, and they don't need to be using my money for it. So there we go.
We can agree on that.
Cheers. Heisman, baby. My guy that I called, a month and a half ago or so? My dude is sitting at the odds favorite right now, Pinky. Jaden Daniels.
He should win.
Yeah, he should.
Win. But there's a groundswell of support for Michael Penix based on Michael Penix being on a winner.
Yep.
So I'll be interested to see how it turns out. Jaden Daniels, like, his numbers are pretty insane. So
basically we'll round up all combined all-purpose yards. He's at 5,000. He's got 50 total touchdowns and only 3 turnovers. Not interceptions. 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
50-3. 5,000 yards. Without him, LSU would have been an awful team. You take Penix and Bo Nix off of their respective teams. I don't think they're awful. They're just not competing for a national championship. And if we're really comparing numbers and what you did during the course of the season, I would actually put it Daniels, Nix, Penix. Penix numbers just don't really jump off the page.
I don't hate that.
They're really solid, but they're just not what Nick's and then Daniels did this year. So I called my Daniels shot. It wasn't looking great because of their record and the way some of these other guys were winning, and that will usually play some into Heisman voters. But with Nick's losing the second time to Washington, Washington not looking great the last month of the season, and Penix not putting up eye-popping numbers, I do think Daniels will end up with it. But it'll be interesting to see how the voting turns out here. And a side note, if you go look at Caleb Williams' numbers this year compared to last year, they're almost identical, and he's actually improved in a couple categories. So the fact that he's not even being mentioned as a Heisman contender this year shows you how the media bias controls a lot of these narratives without actually looking at the players and who should be there as a whole. Because let's be honest, Missouri's running back should have been invited as well.
I mean, that has completely to do with the they just lost a lot.
They did. I'm not going to say they didn't.
That's what it's all about. You can't lose that.
It's just tough because the Heisman isn't supposed to be a most valuable player award. It literally is the best player in college football. Like, it states that very clearly in their voting and everything else. Like, it's not about what the team did. It's about what the individual did. And a lot of times that individual happens to be on one of the best teams, just the way the numbers work out and everything else. This year, it doesn't look like that's the case. And so it will be interesting to see how the committee decides to vote and move forward with that.
Robert, do you have any vote on this?
So my biggest deal with it, I think at the end of the day, is, again, I see where Caleb's coming from, and I would have to say, again, I completely agree. Florida State got screwed with getting into it, and that would be my pick. And with the whole Heisman conversation as well coming into that, the Heisman situation, again, as you mentioned, I think Williams is going to win. That should be the shoe-in. For the rest of it, I feel like, again, with the USC quarterback, he got with his numbers that you mentioned, he improved in. When I was watching that game with really getting into the conversation, because I didn't watch much college football last year, and listening to his numbers, it was damn near incredible. So, yeah, for him not even to be in the conversation, I completely agree with that. Because if you're improving in the situation and you won last year, why aren't you even bothered in the conversation? It's just like they were leaving him out of the book, which for not having ever had a dog in the fight for a Heisman, that seems pretty screwed up. Again, I've always been a Spartan fan, so
Michigan State hasn't had anybody up there. What's going
on? Several things right now. But
you got to
win.
You got to win.
Exactly. And that's not something that the Michigan State program has done in a while, unfortunately.
I can relate to that. Damn.
But it's rough. But again, seeing with all the talent coming and things like that, it's really hard to say. With Bo Nix now being out of the picture, not even going to get into the 4, he's going to be just left out of contention.
He's in the 4.
He's talking about Oregon.
I'm talking with the football, with the playoff.
He's talking about Oregon not being in the 4.
So I'm thinking Penix will get a leg up on that completely. And I think that'll really push Nix out of it. Just in that alone. Which is a shame because I think he played better game. Personally. But overall, the Heisman situation, I think, is going to be really interesting with what is to come with the football playoffs now. Because at this point, it's going to be very media-driven, like Caleb said, just based on what's going to happen in those games alone.
Well, the Heisman comes before any of the games are played.
Does it? I thought it came out.
It does. No.
So the Heisman will be awarded this weekend, this Saturday.
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. It will be next Saturday. This Saturday is the Army-Navy game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Heisman is the week after. Pretty sure it's awarded the week after the Army-Navy game. I'll have to double check that.
So, I Jaden Daniels should win, but I think there's going to be a conversation about Michael Penix being that he's put up the numbers and his team's in the playoffs. It's between him and Daniel. So I don't think Nix or Harrison Jr. are gonna. They're gonna be there in New York, but I don't think they're gonna be in the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I was wrong. It is this weekend. So Army-Navy earlier in the day, Heisman late at night. It'll be a good Saturday.
Okay.
And those that know me, I say it every year.
All right.
If you like college football even a little bit, watch that Army-Navy game, specifically all the pregame stuff, because the pageantry that goes with that rivalry is epic and just awesome. So highly recommend watching that game, seeing the cadets on both ends, the way they fill up the stadium and stuff. Really cool scene. So if you've never watched it before, highly recommend checking out that Army-Navy game this weekend. That's what I got for college football right now. We got, obviously, we'll talk more when the playoffs come up. To what?
What was that?
I'm glad I didn't win the tickets to that game.
Why? Well, I mean, the Super Bowl, obviously,
because I won tickets to the
prize.
Super Bowl.
Right. So you're not saying you wouldn't want to go to that game. Just you're glad you won the other prize, not that prize.
Exactly.
I feel like that's not true, and you're just going with it. But we'll just go with that and keep moving on.
I mean, it's a good consolation prize, but I was happy to win the Super Bowl tickets.
Yes, absolutely.
I would go to the Army-Navy game. I would. Absolutely.
Super Bowl's much better.
So.
You
All right.
You got the right selection, and they selected the right person. So no worries there. So that's college football. We'll talk a little more about it next week, just because the Heisman will be decided, and we'll go over that a little bit. And then we probably won't talk much more college football until right after Christmas, because you got the New Year's Day games and then the national championship, and that'll be worth talking about. So this is the end of college football we'll do it next week, and then we'll take a couple weeks off. So go from there. Pinky, let's roll into the big dog. Let's roll into top dog. Let's talk a little NFL, my man.
Well, did we want to do just a quick talking about Joker and his dominant run this year, which might be even better than last season?
I'm good with a little mention. Leading the league in points, rebounds, and assists right now.
I'm not a huge NBA person, so you'll have to bring me along with that.
We won't talk a lot of NBA right now.
Okay.
Pinky and I kind of wanted to just throw out the fact that Jokic is doing Jokic things and still getting hated on.
So Joker literally is the only player in the last 40 years to put up multiple 30-point triple-doubles with no turnovers. He's done it 3 times in his career. He's done it twice this season. No one has done it in 40 years.
Until Halliburton did it 2 nights ago.
Halliburton did
Tyrese Halliburton did it for the Pacers 2 nights ago. And this is the craziest thing. This is why I say Jokic still gets hated on. Like Pinky said, Jokic has done it twice this season. It was not talked about or mentioned. Halliburton did it 2 nights ago, and it was the first story that SportsCenter ran. So don't sit here and tell me from the national media or any other NBA team that the Nuggets don't get shit on still. Don't tell me that people are giving Jokic all his flowers now. Don't tell me because they won the championship that they have no reason to complain anymore. Let's be honest. If we're still talking about the actual narrative that is there and the facts of that narrative, Denver still doesn't get any love for what they do. And that's just a simple fact. Now, if you want them to stop saying we're not going to get any love, then change the national media narrative. It's real simple.
I'll give Kendrick Perkins at least a little bit of credit.
That's fair.
He's not talking about the Nuggets, but he is saying Joker is the best player. Like he's turned
he's the best player in the NBA now. Yes.
He's turned over that point. Like he's the best player. I still think the Suns or the Lakers will beat them, but he's saying he's the best player, which I know in the back of his mind he wants to throw up that he's saying it.
Probably.
But you just can't deny it. You just can't deny it. Like it is a fact. And again, I'm an unathletic white guy. Nothing makes me happier than seeing an unathletic white guy out there just doing stupid things that I'm like, he shouldn't be able to do that. And yet he still does it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Agreed. The last NBA topic I will mention real quick. Everybody shit on the in-season tournament. Said it was a terrible idea. They shouldn't do it. It's a waste of time. Well, guess what the in-season tournament has done? It has done exactly what the NBA wanted it to, and it has increased viewership this time of the NBA season drastically, actually. Noticeable number jumps in viewership.
Big time.
So say what you want, call it dumb all you want. I've been a fan of the idea since the beginning. I think it's working beautifully the way they wanted it to. And I think you'll continue to see it get better and grow over the years because it's working.
I think at the beginning, I wasn't sure about like how it all worked. But the fact that the games still count for their records, the teams who aren't in still play 2 extra games that still count for their record. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. So I like it. It's been fun. The color schemes on the courts, some of them are a little off and a little weird.
All the courts are too much for me. Yeah, all the courts are too much for me. I'll say that's the only thing about the in-season tournament I don't like. But I do like that the NBA thought and just said, hey, let's do something to the courts so that when people are watching, they know it's not just a regular season game. It's a regular season game that's in season tournament game. So it differentiated right away. You knew that this game meant just a little bit more, all things considered. So I thought that was a really smart idea of the NBA. I just think the courts were a little too busy for my liking.
Right. And maybe they changed that a little bit, but I think almost like keeping it a pretty much normal court, but then just having like the color you want down the middle of the court would be enough. I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't need
I could see that.
The middle of the court to be one color and the rest to be a completely different color. Like it's just a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. But overall, I would say the NBA, you were not a fan of the idea. You thought it was going to be stupid and pointless. I think they kind of swayed you a little bit.
I will say that, besides the Nuggets not playing great in their in-season tournament games, for the most part, most teams took it. It still counts on your record, so most teams took it serious. And
absolutely,
it did create the interest that the NBA needed. Because again, like their viewership in October and November, normally pretty low.
Yeah,
it's not really until football season is over that they kind of pick up that extra viewership.
Yeah, and even December is not great.
Share.
Yeah, not until Christmas. Christmas Day, they throw a bunch of games on every year. That's been the NBA's thing. NFL is trying to get in on that now, but that has been the NBA's thing. That's really kind of what a lot of people kind of consider the actual start of the NBA season is those Christmas Day games, month and a half or so into the season, almost 2 months. That's when people really start paying attention, and it coincides with football ending, surprisingly enough. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this moving forward, but I'm a big fan, and I like what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, buddy. We'll see how it turns out. And it's in Vegas. I can get on board with that. Like if they keep it in Vegas, that might make it a reason to actually go to an in-season tournament finals in Vegas. That could be a fun little trip.
I'm down. Nuggets get in there. We make.
I don't need a reason to go to Vegas.
Sure.
I don't need a reason to go to Vegas, but I will definitely go. So, I learned the NHL draft is going to be in Vegas next year, and it's going to be in the Sphere. I was like,
that hasn't, from what I've read, that hasn't been finalized yet. That's what the NHL wants to do. I don't know if the Sphere will actually do it though, because that's a lot of seats that they're not going to fill.
they'll be all right. And if they're not filling it, I'll find a way to go. Like, that sounds awesome to me. So
yeah, I don't know if the NFL. I think you're kind of comparing it to like the NFL draft, Pinky, and the NFL draft is its own thing. There are no other drafts in sports that are really worth watching. I'm a huge basketball guy, and I don't even really – I watch it, but I don't, like, watch it, and that's the NBA draft. So, I don't know. I think the NHL might be getting a little too big for their britches in that situation.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's go to the NFL. Let's switch over. Although Joker is the man. Let's see. Clayton had a question for us here. Let's see what Clayton had to say. Who is the best team and which player that no such was playing the best? Which team is not? I am probably too buzzing to understand what you're saying here, Clayton.
I got this, Pinky. I got it. With stats,
right,
you're looking at 49ers best team. You're looking at 49ers as the best team stat-wise, and you're looking at Tyreek Hill as the best player stat-wise. And honestly, the fact that Tyreek isn't being mentioned as a Heisman, an MVP favorite right now is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Brock Purdy's good, but I think there's a lot of guys who could be in that system and do what Brock Purdy's doing. Mahomes is having a down year. Hurts is having a down year. Dak's looking pretty good here recently, so Dak might jump up there, and Dak's doing some good things. But if Tyreek Hill goes for 2,000 yards this season and doesn't get the MVP, I'll feel like he got screwed a little bit, because you take him off of that Dolphins team and just replace him with an average receiver, and the Dolphins aren't where they are right now.
Cheers, my dude. That I agree wholeheartedly.
Solid.
Totally agree on that one.
So that would say stats-wise. As far as just straight up who's playing the best, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Ravens, I would say are all kind of up there as far as who's playing the best right now. I don't know if those might actually be the three best teams in the NFL right now too, actually.
But Clayton, I got one for you. I got one for you. The team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs right now. Nobody wants to play the Houston Texans. The way CJ Stroud is slinging that ball, I tell you, buddy, the way they're slinging that ball,
getting a little carried away there, bud.
Hold on. For the last 4 to 5 weeks, their defense has been playing much better. Will Anderson, Derek Stingley are playing really good football.
Yep, I agree.
When you have a court, and that O-line is playing good enough to give CJ time.
I'll agree.
And I will say it right now, because I watched that game, and I was again Broncos fan. I wanted the Broncos to win. I was so impressed by the way that CJ Stroud is able to stand in the pocket and just launch that ball downfield. And it's the guys are wide open. And whether that was scheming them wide open or what, that dude was hitting it, man. So I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to play. Nobody would have seen
CJ Stroud doing that.
I said CJ Stroud. I would have taken CJ Stroud 1. I said that. That was on the podcast.
I know.
I'd have taken him over Bryce Young.
Like this, not so much to you per se in this situation, just in general, kind of saying like if you watch CJ Stroud, this wouldn't have been as big a surprise as people are trying to make it to be. But let's be honest, Pinky. They barely beat the Broncos. The Broncos aren't a great team, had 3 turnovers, and the Broncos still had a chance to win it at the end of the game. So by no means do I think anybody would be scared to see the Houston Texans if they snuck into the playoffs. I don't think there's anybody on the AFC side that goes, "Oh, I don't want to play them." If you had said Miami, I might have been like, I could see that. I could see Miami being somebody nobody wants to see in the playoffs.
Hold on. No, nobody wants to see Miami in Miami in the playoffs.
That's a fact. That is a fact, sir.
So them having the number one seed right now,
yeah,
that's
I
dangerous.
was about to say, and the Ravens are going into a bye week, so Miami's got a chance to whoop on the Commanders.
They're coming out of the bye week.
Yeah. Ravens just had their bye week.
Did they just have their? I thought they was coming up. Am I a week behind?
No, they just had it.
behind.
They're playing.
Okay.
Yeah, Ravens just had it.
Yeah.
That was the last bye of the year. Was week 13 for everybody.
Sweet.
No, there's buys this week. There's buys.
No.
This week, but the Ravens are not on the bye. Yes, there
Is
are.
there still buys
there are
this week? I
buys
thought
this
13
week.
was the
Week
last
14
week.
is the last week.
So week 14 is the last week with buys. My bad. Cody, there you go. Cody,
The
get it.
Commanders are
Cardinals
on.
and Commanders.
I know the Commanders are on bye.
Cardinals and Commanders. All right, appreciate it,
Okay.
Cody.
Yeah.
My bad, fellas. I was thinking that a little
Yeah.
bit too early. So
Dolphins play the Titans. Where are the Ravens? Ravens play the Rams this week.
that should be a cakewalk for both
So-
teams.
Right.
That
right.
should be a cakewalk.
And
for
then the
both
Rams.
teams.
I think the Ravens play the Dolphins next week. I believe. No, maybe not. In sometime coming soon. No, that's not it either. The Ravens and Dolphins play. I thought I heard that. Yeah, there it is. Week 17, Dolphins and
Okay.
Ravens play. So that is a huge game.
That'll be a big game.
Couple
That'll
weeks
be a
from now.
big game. So that Peyton, hopefully that answers your question. Kind of where we're at there. Detroit's playing really good ball too, and they kind of keep getting left under the radar. I think part of that still is they've been a little inconsistent all season. So I think that's why I'm not considering them one of the top teams just yet.
That's it. It's the inconsistency.
Yeah.
Like they're up 21-0 to the Saints and still let the Saints come back in that game. Like that's concerning.
Agreed. Unacceptable if you're going to be a top tier team. Now I get everybody has, like I said before, you have a slump during the season.
No.
You might have a couple games that aren't good, but the Lions, game to game, quarter to quarter, can be here and here. Like they're just constantly all over the place, it feels like. So I haven't seen them put it all together consistently enough through a couple game stretch where I'm like, all right, they finally figured it out.
I think, unfortunately for the Lions, I don't think they play as well against physical teams that can match their physicality. And
I
think
agree with that
hurts them.
100%.
Because I think the Lions
I'll agree
are built
too. Cheers,
well
my guy.
on the D line. They're built well on the O line and the D line, but and again, I've said this since Jared Goff came out. When you put pressure on Jared Goff, he's just not as good. And
It's true.
when
It is
teams can be
surprising to say
physical-
that. It's surprising to say that, think about it, and agree with it, given who their head coach is.
Yep. It's disappointing because when Goff is on, he's on. But the minute he's actually having to make a show for it, it's stressful. And it's disappointing.
I've got-
if he could hold
I've got
it, they
a lot of
actually could
Lions
do
in
it.
fantasy. I am relying on the Lions in fantasy this year, so I need them to pull this out down the stretch. No.
It'll be interesting to see how that division finishes out, to be honest with you, because even the Packers are playing really good ball right now.
Packers are playing good. I had a let's talk about the Packers for a sec. The Packers are another team. I don't know if you'll agree with this, Caleb. I feel like they're similar to the Broncos. When they play
I was going to call the Broncos Packers light.
I think They play
So,
when their defense plays well and complements the offense, and the offense does just enough, they win football games. They're not the upper echelon. They're in that middle ground where, again, against good teams, they can still win. But their defense has to play well, and then their offense has to do just enough. And that's their kind of formula.
I agree. I completely agree. I think there are a ton of similarities between the Broncos and the Packers. I will say, and it's kind of disappointing, just kind of where we're at, though. I have more confidence in the Packers head coach and their skill positions to be able to make a playoff run than I do the Broncos.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'll say to me, they're both very capable with their schedules to make the playoffs.
That's true. That's very true. So what happens?
Both teams really hold their destiny in their hands. Because again, and I think the next topic I was going to discuss is more about the AFC.
Move on.
And
go.
all the quarterbacks in the AFC that are out right now.
Injuries, brutal right now. Yeah, I cannot remember the last time we saw.
I think it happens every couple of years.
It does, and it's definitely cyclical. But to have this many quarterbacks
for the
out,
season,
I can't ever remember this many quarterbacks being out all at the same time.
I would agree with that
statement.
Season,
I think we would all say the AFC quarterback wise was loaded, right?
Yeah,
top to bottom, just loaded.
Not top to bottom,
and then
not top to bottom. No,
I mean, I still think like 12 of the 16 teams had pretty good quarterbacks overall.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
When you look at AFC versus NFC.
You're not talking about that upper echelon where they
obviously
you're talking about just a capable overall signal.
No.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. Whereas in the NFC, I think you had more like, well, you've got, in the NFC, you had Jalen Hurts, and then you had guys that you're like, well, maybe Kirk Cousins, maybe if Brock Purdy's healthy,
Dak,
maybe, you had uncertainty on the NFC side.
Sure.
And then you were looking at the AFC, you're like, oh, they've got Mahomes and Allen and Burrow, top three guys. You've got Deshaun Watson, you've got Russell Wilson, you got Trevor Lawrence, you've got all, you got CJ Stroud at the bottom, which he's shown he's closer to the top. But, just all that uncertainty. Well, now you've got Deshaun Watson out. You've got Kenny Pickett out, he's closer to the bottom, but he's out. Trevor Lawrence now, how long is he going to be out, right? Anthony Richardson, promising rookie, he's out. Gardner Minshew's in, right? So a lot of the AFC teams right now are playing with backup quarterbacks.
And side note, how happy are the Indianapolis front office right now that they went and got Minshew as their backup?
Right. Minshew's been playing great for them.
Can
you imagine? It just goes to show like that guy could have probably gone and probably been. Falcons probably make the playoffs as he was their starter right now.
Yep. A lot of people should have taken interest in Gardner Minshew. A lot of people.
But and this is where, as the topic of the podcast was the NFL playoff picture coming into focus. It is a little muddled in the AFC, but I don't see the Browns going anywhere with Flacco, PJ Walker, or DTR. I don't see the Steelers going anywhere with Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. I felt like that magic carpet ride was going to end. I do think the Colts have a shot. I'm still not convinced. Gardner's played good football and he's played bad football. So it's still like one of those things like they've got to finish it out. Bengals aren't going anywhere. I mean, Jake Browning looked okay. He threw the most short passes I've seen in a game in forever.
Who cares? Okay. He threw that bomb to Chase. He only had 2 incompletions the whole night. Like, dude, if you can call a game plan and your quarterback can do that, you're in contention.
Bro,
There
at
are
one
not many
point, Chase
teams
had 3 catches and -7 yards. Like, that's not.
I know.
Like, that's not good.
I get what you're saying,
I don't think
but
that's not sustainable.
man, I don't know. They have so much talent, Pinky. As long as you're smart with your game planning and your play calling, you can go 49ers on people, and all you need Jake Browning to do then is a game manager.
We would all say the Jacksonville Jaguars have a decent defense, not a great defense. I think we'd agree with that, right?
Yep.
It took everything, including a Trevor Lawrence injury and overtime, for the Bengals to win that game. I'm not.
I know, but they still hung
in any
31. They put 31 up with their backup quarterback against an average defense. That's what they're going to see in the AFC playoffs. Other than the Chiefs, what AFC team are they going to face?
I think
it's got an insanely good defense.
Bill's defense is playing pretty good right now.
No,
they don't have some of their stars.
They're missing too many
good.
pieces to be great.
I didn't say great. I said they're playing pretty good.
I mean, they're kind of getting lit up week in and week out.
We'll see.
And that's against lesser competition.
And this is where I think the Chiefs have their best chance with the shittiest offense they've ever had to stroll themselves back into the Super Bowl. Because they have Miami and Baltimore. And eventually, one of those two teams are going to have to play each other. I don't know if the Chiefs will have to play both of them. So,
I mean, the AFC picture's definitely gotten muddy. Not what we expected to see from the beginning of the year. I do believe, and we kind of said this at the beginning of the year, the AFC is loaded, but the 2 best teams might be in the NFC. So, not a lot's changed from where we kind of had already seen the big picture to start with. So it'll be interesting to see how things fall these next couple of weeks, because within the next 2 weeks, the playoff positions are really are going to start being finalized.
The way the AFC is playing right now, I can't see an AFC team beating Philly, San Francisco, or Dallas right now.
I agree with that.
Absolutely, 100%.
And would possibly struggle against Detroit too. Possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the whole world is going crazy if Detroit makes the Super Bowl, but
you know what? As I think about this,
Detroit makes the Super Bowl, the world is ending. How about that? I mean, I'm just gonna put that out there.
Good to know. I'm gonna start saying prayers right away. As I think about this a little more, you know, the team that nobody wants to see in the playoffs, Pinky, who it really is. You know, the real team that answer should be. It's Buffalo. Buffalo is the team nobody wants to see in the playoffs.
No.
I mean, what are they, 6-6 right now? But you could say they might be the best team in the NFL on any given moment, just with how talented they are, and Josh Allen playing at his prime. Josh Allen's not playing as bad as the media likes to make it sound sometimes. A lot of his turnovers that he's had this year aren't really on him. Now, don't get me wrong, he's done some gunslinger stuff that has cost his team. But a lot of the turnovers he's had have been guys not catching the ball. McDermott has continued to make some really odd coaching choices in crucial moments. And the defense is completely obliterated with injuries, even though, like you said, they are playing good. They're missing 4 or 5 of their top dudes. And 3 of them are their starters right up the middle of the, so...
we'll find out on Sunday because the Bills and Chiefs are going at it, so it'll be a good showdown.
And that's the kicker is Buffalo, even in their losses, they haven't gotten blown out.
That is a must win
for
Buffalo.
Absolutely.
That is a must
If they're going to have any prayer to get in the playoff, yes.
Buffalo
at home?
needs that win.
Is that in Buffalo, Pinky, or is it in KC?
It's at KC.
I got to look. I was watching the Avs, so I got to.
It is at KC.
It's in KC.
Ooh, that is not good for Buffalo.
Well, Buffalo 2 years ago kicked the shit out of the Chiefs in KC, so it is possible.
They did, but what happened the last time they were in KC?
Well, that was in the playoffs, and it was a close
but
loss.
I'm pretty sure that's just part of the overall Buffalo Bills curse.
But
just continues to follow them.
But this is such a different Chiefs team than we've ever seen before. Because it's the best defense they've ever had. It's the worst offense they've ever had. So I don't even know what to think about them anymore. I don't.
Yeah, let's be honest though. They're an MVS drop pass and a non-pass interference call away from us not having any of those conversations. So this whole
we don't know if
overdoing.
We don't know if they
offense
win.
Is a good thing.
We don't know if they win. We don't know if they win that Packer game. Because
fine. It would have.
They're still not in the.
But
end
you know
zone
what
yet.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
The Eagle game, I can agree with you on, but actually, I don't know if they win the Eagle game because there was still a lot of time left. But I get it; they've left a lot out there, but that's also they've done it so much this season that you just can't trust it. You just can't.
I get what you're saying, but
and that's so crazy.
So I'm going to change my mind again. The team nobody wants to see is Kansas City. The more I think about this,
Patrick Mahomes.
Dude, seriously,
I think
they find a way to make a playoff run and they get to the Super Bowl, Super Bowl, that offense could all of a sudden click at any moment and then nobody's stopping them. If that offense starts clicking.
I don't know if that offense is going to click. I just don't.
I get it. I'm not saying it will either. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, the level of danger that the Chiefs could give people probably is the highest.
So here's where, if the Chiefs want to do that, here's what Andy Reid needs to do. He needs to continue to run the goddamn ball.
Yep. Pacheco should be over 100 yards every game.
Run the ball. Run the football. If he does that, absolutely. But we know Andy Reid. Andy Reid runs the football, and then he gets cute, and he wants to throw the ball. And I'm like, you know what? I understand it. You've got one of the best quarterbacks of all time who can sling the ball, can do weird stuff, can get away from pressure, and then throw the ball. He can do some magical stuff out there, and I understand you want to just trust that he's going to do it. But you overestimated your wide receiver group, and they are not good. They are not good. From MVS to Sky Moore to Kadarius Toney, who's barely on the field anymore. Justin Watson's playing better than most of those guys. And then you're just putting everything on Travis Kelce. And if a team's like, you know what, we're going to double, triple team Travis Kelce, beat us anywhere else, I don't know if those guys can beat you. And that's where I don't think teams are afraid of the Chiefs right now, based on offense. Now, their defense is still really freaking good. And that's without Nick Bolton being out there for most of the season.
Yeah.
Nick Bolton is actually really, really good. So.
Now, one matchup, however, I'm looking forward to for playoff picture stuff is Philly and Dallas. That'll be a good game because it's in Dallas.
Dude, that's going to be a game
this weekend, baby. This weekend.
Yep.
That's going to be a game this weekend.
I am ready.
I'm glad you brought it up because the next thing I wanted to
Philly
talk about real quick
has to win that game.
Yeah. They need it for that 1 seed and the division. But the thing I want to talk about Philly real quick. People are looking at that Niners game and saying, damn, San Francisco is head and shoulders above everybody else. I don't agree with that. I think San Francisco is the best team in the NFL. I think they're the best coached. I think they have the most talent at the right positions. I think they're dominant. I don't think they're head and shoulders above everybody else, though, and this is why. Before that game, San Francisco's last game was 10 days before that. So they had 10 days off before they played Philly. For Philly, that San Francisco game was their third game in 13 days. So you were looking at a beat up, tired, ready for a break Philly team versus a refreshed, rejuvenated San Francisco team.
And let's not forget, they played Buffalo, Kansas City, and then the 49ers.
Yep.
And then they've got the Cowboys. Like this is a murderer's row of teams.
One of the most brutal stretches I can ever remember seeing an NFL team have to go through on their schedule. But don't look at that 49er Philly game and go, oh damn, Philly out. 49ers would smoke them in the playoffs if they met again. That's not what I took from that game. What I saw was a really tired team playing a really refreshed team, and those are usually the results you're going to get in those situations, regardless of the talent on the field.
Well, and here's where I'll just throw one thing, and I like Philly and I like San Francisco a lot. If Philly scores touchdowns on their first two drives and the first
quarter, 6-0, make it
14-0.
Sure.
And then we're having a completely different ball game, right? Now, again, that comes back to you got to capitalize. You got to score. And the 49ers, I think they found, again, what'd they find? Get the ball in Debo's hands and let him do the work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty easy.
A truer statement.
Get the ball in Debo's hands and let him do the work. Does in the next game, does Philly key more on Debo maybe? You know, again, I just don't think I based on performance.
There's a lot of things.
And again, NFL is a week to week. You know, it's always week to week.
Yeah.
Last couple weeks,
as Stephen A. Smith always says, it's fluid. It's fluid.
I mean, Dallas has been murdering folks the last couple weeks. Now, if you look at who they're murdering, none of the teams are very good for the most part.
That's what they should have been doing.
Right. So
here's another point.
This game means so much.
Here's another point about the Eagles Niners game, real quick. And I've said it before. I think personally for me, he is the best out there right now, breaking down game film and giving it to you in layman's terms to help you truly understand what's going on. And that's Dan Orlovsky. I absolutely love the way he breaks down film on those video boards, and he puts up the X's and O's and pauses and rewinds. If you haven't seen Dan Orlovsky break down film, I highly recommend watching it. I think you can learn a lot from the guy. I think he does a great job explaining things. One thing he pointed out, and it's something that I had wondered about, but I didn't play football at a high enough level to truly understand the X and O's as well as I want to. So I'm still learning some of that stuff. But something I kept seeing was it looked like to me, San Francisco kept running a 3 wide and loading one side, and that was causing issues for Philly. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Orlovsky broke it down today, actually, on Get Up, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. But basically, what he was saying was 49ers were in that formation a majority of the game. They go 3 wide on one side, 1 running back, tight end, or a wide receiver on the other side. And then they motion one way or the other. And Philly would never really adjust to it. They never really made any changes the whole game. And when guys went in motion, you didn't see anybody following or moving or them adjusting sideways one way or the other. And it got me thinking, as I'm listening to Orlovsky break this down and explain why San Francisco was so dominant and that formation kept leaving these giant open spaces for them to throw the ball to, was Philly goading the 49ers? was Philly looking at this game going, yeah, we want to win, but we also have some stuff up our sleeve that we're just saving for the playoffs, specifically for this team. And there's no way we're going to run any of it out this week. We're not showing any of our hand this week to the 49ers because in our minds, we are going to see them in the NFC Championship game. So we're going to use this game as a vanilla, almost preseason type game with some of our formations. And we're going to see what happens. And if we lose, we lose. If we win, even better. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it's definitely a thought that started running through my mind as I watch back this film and I see Orlovsky breaking it down. And I'm seeing the same formation over and over. And I'm seeing him throw to wide open spaces over and over. And Philly never adjusted. It's got to make you think a little bit like, well, are they doing that on purpose? Like, are they really trying to just not show some of the things that they see are possible to beat this team and they are saving it for a later date?
That's a tough one, man, because Philly puts themselves in a tough spot this weekend.
Yeah.
They have to win this weekend. So that's really tough. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, that's a good chess game if that's what they're playing. But like, if they beat the Niners, if they beat the Niners based on their remaining schedule, they'd probably have that number 1 seed locked up. So unless they're completely confident they can beat Dallas in Dallas.
Right. Think about this. How much smack did the 49ers talk over since the NFC Championship game? If we had Brock Purdy, you would have never won, right? Like, they've been saying it nonstop since then. And then they go out and beat them, and now all you've heard after that game is, see, told you. What would happen if what I just said was actually true and Philly came out and laid a smacking on them in the playoffs? Oh, man, that would be something. That would be something.
I mean,
you want to hear some shit.
It's not under the realm.
Let that happen.
I mean, we all know they're on a collision course, and then we still have Dallas and Detroit out there, who are still good teams. And I think Dallas on a good day, Dallas has to play perfect football to beat the Eagles and the 49ers. But they can do that. I'm not crazy enough to say that they can't beat those teams. They're just like, they've got to play really good football. And the last time we saw them play Philly, they lost. The last time they played the 49ers, they got smacked. So I think they're just like, they could be a thorn in your side, but are they really a rivalry, right?
It will be interesting to see what's happened because I think, myself included, I think everybody should be eating crow right now on the Mike McCarthy bashing. Dallas is looking really good. Dak is playing some of his best football of his career. Say what we want about McCarthy, but numbers tell a different story than what we thought was going to happen. And I think we kind of all need to eat just a little bit of crow on that.
But it's completely the opposite of what McCarthy said. We want to run the football more. We want to do that. They have not done that.
I agree. Like, it's not what they said, but we all said the NFL passed by. His offense
I think it's
was
literally
antiquated.
been. I think it's been exactly what it's been for the last 4 years, whatever years McCarthy's been there. They beat the shit out of the bad teams. They struggled with Seattle, and I think we would agree Seattle's a pretty good team, and they struggled with Seattle. It took everything they had to beat Seattle. I still think the offense is just like what it's been the last 3 seasons. They will beat the brakes off of bad teams, but they're still going to struggle against physical teams because that's what we've seen so far this season. When they have struggled, it's been against physical teams. So this weekend, gigantic game for Dallas. You want to get that monkey off your back? You want to say you're one of the top teams? come show us.
Yeah, man, it's your time. It's your time to change that narrative that's been dancing around you for the last 20 plus years.
That's our Sunday night game, boys. We gotta get it. We gotta get it.
It'll be a good one. One.
All right, what else you got?
That's about
Cricket.
Yeah, I don't. Everything else is kind of same old that we've talked about already. I don't know if there's a whole lot new left to discuss. What are you thinking, Robert?
I mean, I'm still coming off of the high of this last weekend. So the Portuguese Comic-Con, so CCXP was going down, which came with so much because the strike is over. So all of the cons that were supposed to be revealing stuff we're now fully getting. Furiosa, all of that. I mean, so many good things. Mad Max, The Boys, Season 4, following Gen V now, like Godzilla and Kong again. Ready for that because you got the Monarch series going right now, which is just equally as good. So, I mean, there was a lot of good things happening. Dune 2, which, of course, is my bread and butter. So I'm slowly waiting for that. Pinky, you can get out of here with that. I don't care what you say. Dune's is amazing.
I've gotten hardcore to Dune here over the last year or so.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. That director sucks. I do not like him.
What? That first movie was epic, dude.
Dude, he has a thing for Denis Villeneuve, man.
That first movie
don't get it.
Boring as hell.
You were out of your mind.
Hour.
Dude. But let's be honest. You are not a big storyteller, set the stage kind of guy.
Oh, hold on. I am completely about a story. Build it up, all that. That first hour of Dune is one of the most boring hours of cinema out there.
I couldn't disagree more.
The second half of that movie, you guys are totally wrong. The second half of that movie is actually pretty good. I agree. Once it gets moving. And by the time it gets moving and gets you interested, it's over. That first hour, I fell asleep twice.
You hated Fellowship of the Ring, right? You hated.
Oh my God!
No, like that was a boring movie, terrible.
Thank you.
It's the same setup, kid.
It's world building at its finest.
And but Dennis doesn't get me with any of his movies. I hate all of his movies.
I love Blade
Runner.
Of them. 2049 was excellent.
Blade Runner's fucking boring as hell. The whole movie is boring as hell.
Never seen it. It's on my list to watch.
At least with Dune, the second half at least redeems it a little bit. Because then I was like, okay, I'm excited to see like what's happening, and then it was over.
Damn, I love that first half of Blade Runner. That chess match that's being set up, dude.
So good.
Blade Runner is you'll love Blade Runner then because it's just as boring.
What else is he done?
It's not boring. He did Sicario.
Sicario is great.
I love Sicario.
The first one. The second one was really bad.
The second one wasn't
great.
But
he didn't do the second one.
I loved the first one.
So
no, the first one was not as good as it could have been. Period.
He also did.
What? That first movie was badass.
That first movie was
Sicario.
Epic.
What would everybody said it was better?
Everybody said it was so good. I went and watched it. I was like, no, this is not very good at all.
What?
At all. I do not like him as a director. I just don't.
Usually I'm the one sitting here giving movie things that Pinky's telling me I'm an idiot. Buddy, you are on an island tonight, kid.
Dude.
I don't mean
you like the island? You don't sit there very often.
He's a horrible director. I love it. And there's enough people on my side of the island against him that I'm fine with it.
Prisoners was another
I'm not the only one that says these. I'm not the only one that says these things about his movies.
I think Sicario was badass. I love Dune. And I didn't know anything about Dune before I saw that movie.
Oh, man. What?
Sicario?
Yeah. So
Sicario is one
I'd
of
always
the worst
heard about it, but I tried to watch
ever.
the old one a lot of times. Could never really get into it for whatever reason. I knew some of the basics, but my family never watched it growing up. I had no link to it. So I said when that movie came out, I'm going to give it a chance, see what I think. that put me on a rabbit hole of learning about Dune. And over the last year, I've tried to educate myself to catch up to at least have a better understanding of what's now happening to the point where actually last week I watched the 1984 version.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
And if you've read the book and know the source material, you just
see, I've never read the book, so I thought maybe if I watch that movie, I can gain a little bit more insight, which I did, which is good. It helped me understand just everything as a whole a little better. But now I'm like, damn it, I don't do a lot of reading. I'm not a big reader. But this might be Lord of the Rings-esque for me, where I can get into this and read it.
If you've read Lord of the Rings and love Lord of the Rings, you'll have
multiple
no problem.
Times.
You'll have no problem with Dune.
Okay.
So Herbert writes very similarly to Tolkien.
Ooh.
That's where he drew a lot of his inspiration for building it. And as much as I am obviously a diehard Star Wars person, without Dune, personally, and this is an age-long conversation people can have, without Dune, Star Wars would not have happened. Period. Period. Like, I know George Lucas had original ideas and all of this, but without Dune, Star Wars wouldn't happen. Period. There's just too many
the book we're talking about.
things. Yes. Dune the book.
Okay. I was like,
basically
the
paved the way
movies
for
came out
the
before
ideas for George Lucas to develop Star Wars. Because a lot of the same, like, if you really want to get down to the basics of it, what Han Solo does is smuggle spice, which is what is it? Oh, yeah. The fuel for all of the fucking starships in Star Wars for the coaxium, which all of the spice is used in the Imperium for space travel. Like, we really just want to be basic with that. There you go.
I like it.
There's more to it, but
I know enough now to understand where you're coming from and what you're putting together, and I understand. So, like I said, I'm learning. I love those types of worlds where you can build upon itself. So,
and what I'll say, Caleb, is if you're into it and if you are a board game person like Magic and stuff, like deck building games, there is a Dune Imperium game, and it is massive.
Ooh.
It's like Risk. It's a big strategy game, but it also helps you contextualize, oh, this is what this means, and this is okay. So
my guy got so excited he shut himself off.
Yep. Really forms the world for you to a way where you can picture it with different things without actually having to go through the book.
So let me ask you this, Robert, and Pinky, I know we're sidetracked. Deal with it, my guy. Love you, buddy. Robert, you invited the guy. Don't blame me.
I'm just here, man.
He just shows up.
Is there enough?
He just shows up.
He just showed up. Is there enough Dune to do the same thing like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars has done, where you then create an entire world, universe,
it's already been done.
Backstory? Oh, it has.
So, all right. So without really getting into all of it, so that's where James McAvoy got his start pretty much, it's the children of Dune. So Dune itself, the Paul Atreides story is 2 books.
Okay.
And the rest of the story is his lineage and what happened to
snap.
Arrakis.
Hang on. Dune's not just one book?
Oh, no. It's multiple books. Here.
So we're talking like Wheel of Time. We're talking like Wheel of Time style?
Yes.
Oh. Get a little education here tonight,
Freaking
Pinky.
nerds. All I know is Villanueva is horrible. Horrible.
I apparently really like his style. Okay.
So this is the first. These are the basic 3. So what I'm referring to with James McAvoy is this book, which follows after Paul Atreides' rule.
Okay.
This is like years later.
All right, here's what we're going to do. You're coming on next week. Pinky's not going to be here. So let's table, pause, and we'll do a little bit of this discussion, and you can educate me and everybody else after we have a little bit of Star Wars conversation after our sports stuff, and we'll dive on this a little more because I'm very interested and I like to learn.
Yes, long story short, Dennis is planning to make his own Star Wars or Lord of the Rings with Dune.
Oh, now I'm stoked. Okay.
That is the plan.
That's what we're talking about next week. I'm stoked. Little Star Wars, little education on some new stuff that I'm really getting into. And obviously we'll talk some sports. Pinky, are we missing any sports that we still need to discuss, or is it final thoughts time?
It's final thoughts time. I can't think of anything.
Give it to me, my guy.
Oh, you want me to give a final thought?
Yeah, what's your final thought first? Pinky's mad at us right now.
I don't know. I'm so pissed
He's
off.
upset that we like Villanueva and we're talking nerd stuff. Pinky's out of his game.
He checked out real quick.
I hate that. I hate that. As a director, that guy's got some visually stunning stuff. I will say that. He's good at showing visuals. But the majority of the movies he's made, I have found horribly boring.
I mean, he's no
Blade Runner
Rian
2049,
Johnson, right?
Let's not even.
He is not. Those movies are even more enjoyable.
No, they're not, because it ruins everything that
They
worlds
are.
have built.
Absolutely. Rian Johnson has made more enjoyable movies than Villanueva. That's without question.
Well, there's Pinky's final thought. Robert, what do you got for us?
I personally would disagree with Pinky. I think Dennis has good things, but I also see where he's coming from a story standpoint and can respect that. So, but I'm looking forward to next week and really peeling back that layer and getting into the nerdiness that we can get into. It's going to be fun.
I love it. People, stick with us. All right. We will always talk about sports, but the nonsense is in our name for a reason, because we have other interests, and we might go off-roading one direction. We might bring it back to something else. We might stay over there the whole time. I don't know. And that's the beauty of us having our own platform to speak on. We talk about whatever the hell we want. So hopefully there's enough people out there that want to nerd out with us and listen. If you don't, tune in for the first half. We'll give you your sports update, and then second half or second quarter of whatever it is, Robert and I will nerd out on our own. If nobody else is listening, I don't really care.
It's going to be fun. You're going to miss out if you're not there. That's for sure.
So, as always, we cannot thank everyone enough for their support, likes, shares, re-X's, anything that you do to support what we do. We can't thank you enough. There are not words for us to describe how much that truly means to us. So this is something we love doing. We're going to continue to do it as long as it brings us joy. And we will continue to bring other degenerates on to hang out with us and become repeat offenders and go from there. So as always, if you have those moments with your inner circle, your loved ones, your family, your friends, do not take them for granted. Cherish them. Take advantage of them as often as you can. To you boys, appreciate you. Hope everyone has a good night.
Cheers.
Wow. Cheers.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east.